Hey everybody, it's Mike for Fairday Research. Welcome to the show. It is Friday night. It's about 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. Doing the show live from Toronto tonight. On the live chat tonight, I have Gerald with us tonight, and yeah, we got a great show coming up. I'll be talking about the Bendini system, and Gerald's going to be talking a bit about coils and some interesting information he's found out. And yeah, so tonight it's open lines. So if you guys want to join us, there is the link in the live chat that I put in, and you can join in, and I'll bring you backstage, and then make sure your camera's working, or if you don't want to use the camera, just use your microphone. Make sure that's active, and we can bring you to the show, and you can ask your questions to Gerard and myself. And yeah, been an interesting week. First, I'd like to, thank all my Patreons for supporting me. That I've been out of work, and your donations and being a Patreon really helps out, make ends meet. And I just, want to shout out to each and every one of my Patreons that's following me and been supporting me for quite a while. Some of them have been there for quite some time. So thank you everybody for supporting me in my work. And yeah, so I guess, Gerald, if you want to start on a couple of topics that you wanted to share with everybody about that article in Aston Forbes about the anti-gravity stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Um,
What?
I was on Ashton Forbes' channel the other day, and he was talking about this awesome patent he found from 2006. And
Okay.
yeah, did you want me to?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, go
Bernie,
ahead.
I don't
Hey,
know if you
hey,
wanted me to show it or not, but how's it going, Bernie?
good. My apologies. I wasn't able to set up for a multi-stream tonight. I was late working tonight, helping a buddy do a side job. So, um, glad you guys kept it going though.
Yep.
Always. We're gonna try and do it every Friday if my old
Absolutely
time.
proud of you. So we'll make sure that we'll find a way to get it so that we can multi-stream it on all channels, no matter what, next time. So and like pre-set them up and stuff. So it's just it goes live at 6 or 7 on Friday every time.
Yeah, exactly. I like to
Yeah,
keep it within 9:15. Sometimes there could be a technical issue that might pop up. Shit happens, right? So, I try to keep it at 9 o'clock so anybody who tunes into the station on a regular basis, they can rely on us that we are actually going to be doing a show. So, I like to keep a regular schedule like that. So, I think that'll help out the channel, help out everybody who's multi-streaming with us on multiple channels. That's going to benefit everybody in the end, right? So,
yeah, I
Exactly.
agree.
Absolutely.
yeah, we got Mike on the line too. How's it going, Mike?
Got the mics.
Yep, Mike and Mike.
Now
For
next we just need to get Michael Boyd and Mike from space all get the four mics in one.
you try to make
Absolutely.
it more confusing. Eh? Mike, your microphone's not on. I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not allowing me. Uh,
He's probably got his mute on.
yeah, it could be. But anyways, yeah,
Yep.
Gerald, you might as well just carry on with what you were talking about there.
Well, this paper that Ashton Forbes came out with is it's very interesting. It's called
Yes,
"The Method of Gravity Distortion and Time Displacement" from April
yes,
6, 2006.
Really?
Yeah, and it's the diagrams on it are very interesting. The inventor is Marlon B.
yes.
Pullman from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
Yeah, I don't know how to get it to you.
I'll just message Ashton.
There you go. I got it on PDF, so I mean, I don't know if you want me to share it on screen or not. That's up to you
Oh,
guys.
you guys
There it
should
is.
bring it up
Sure,
for sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you want to pull it up, go
Let's
ahead.
see. Present.
What's up, guys? Good evening.
Hey,
Hey, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Alright.
Mike and Mike
Hey
connection.
there.
All right. Can you see it?
I'll add it to the stage here. Oh, it's got diagrams too.
Yeah. So
Now,
yeah, this is the patent. What's that?
now, was this registered with the U.S. Patent Office, or who was it registered with?
Yep, the United States Patent Application Publication. That's what it is. And there's all the numbers. I don't know if are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like you can see the patent itself.
Let's see if I can get a full screen here.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. So if you want me to explain this, it's going to take me a bit because I just started reading the paper. I just thought it was so darn interesting that this is something I think we all need to look.
We want an absolute like paragraph by paragraph, word by word breakdown and full interpretation right now.
That's going to take a little time, you know. I'm not the alien scientist. I can't spit this stuff out like no tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
I feel
But
you.
That's
yeah,
a
I
good
don't
handle,
know.
though. You got to admit it. Alien scientist.
Yeah, that's an awesome handle. I used
Jeremy
to watch
Reese, the
Jeremy back
original
10 years ago
scientist.
when it first started.
Really? That long?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
just,
He was
I
back in
just,
He's
2000.
been doing it for like 14 years.
I just ran
Yeah,
into Bernie. Bernie, your channel, Bernie. At the same time, I ran into Alien's channel. Maybe this year or
Wow.
last year. Sorry.
yeah. Jeremy, when YouTube was blowing up in 2008, he was rocking it, and then he got like, I don't know. There was some stuff that happened, and he said, "Piss on it," and walked away for a bit. I'm glad he came back to it all though. So I'm just showing this paper. I'm not reading it because I believe it would
It's
take
too
too long.
much. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's too much.
but
Give us
it's
a little
very
highlight. What's your favorite segment or diagram that you've seen so far?
well. See, and that's the thing. I've only gotten halfway through this paper, but it talks about the space-time lattice. It talks about how you can change time. It's very interesting paper.
There we
It
go.
actually
I like
talks,
that. Space-time lattice.
well, here I'll give you a bit of a paragraph here. It is important to re-examine space-time itself in this light. This would have one directional vector with two vector dimensions of energy, one of capacitance and one of electrical permeability. That's important. Thus accounting for the well-known constants of free space, the permittivity of free space, and permeability of free space, respectively. Now, I could go into this forever, man. I love this paper,
Now,
but
now, just a question for you. What kind of apparatus were they using for this?
that's a good question.
Was there actually
I
an
believe it
apparatus,
was,
or is
you know what? That's the thing. I haven't finished it, so I can't really say, but from my understanding, I'm trying to get
creating
back
some
to
kind
this
of
here.
waveform, or like an antenna, or some kind of emitter? Or,
I believe it's a machine that creates an electrical waveform. See, here's
yeah.
the breakdown of it, right?
Oh, okay. So I have to be some kind of like maybe like some kind of dipole type antenna,
Well,
maybe, or some
the
kind of
abstract. Do you want me to
waveguide.
read the abstract?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Okay, so the abstract goes a method for employing sinusoidal oscillations of electrical bombardment on the surface of one Kerr type singularity in close proximity to a second Kerr type singularity in such a method to take advantage of the lens Thirring effect to stimulate the effect of 2-point masses on nearly radial orbits, and a 2+1 dimensional anti-de Sitter space, resulting in the creation of circular time-like geodesics conforming to the Van Stockum under the Van den Broek modification of the Albuquerque geometry.
So it sounds it
Permitting
sounds like some kind of like a dipole type antenna.
I believe it's their theory on the geometry of the Albuquerque space drive. I'm like I said, I'm still reading this paper and breaking it down.
Yeah, it seems pretty involved.
It is. There's a lot of technical terms that have to be transferred into layman terms, and I'm not as good on the language as Jeremiah, say for
Yeah,
instance, or Jeremy
more like
himself.
more of the theoretical physics part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm kind of more of the experimental hands-on kind of
Well,
guy, to be honest with you.
that's exact. Yeah, well,
Me
that's what I
too.
am too, right? Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I am at heart.
I've
I just
I've come at this tech from a completely different angle. I
yeah
came across something absolutely astounding, and I started to try and find out what it actually was that I found, and then I found even more and started to learn. And
yeah
wow,
the ra-
to put an
yeah
actual term on what it is that I have, I still
That's what
look.
it's about.
Yeah,
well
Just
yeah
discovery and then wanting to learn what you've discovered, and then you stumble upon several, like hundreds of more. It's
yeah
how we
you see
progress.
you find the rabbit hole and you choose which one to jump down, right? I think there's
yeah. To
multiple
try and
rabbit
best
holes.
describe the device. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it's like there's several rabbit holes, but they're all interconnected. But you have to choose one at a time because you know diving.
absolutely.
Because if you're trying to dive down three different rabbit holes, it's going to get very confusing, right?
Are we
So
on the warp drive rabbit hole? We're in the warp
Yeah,
drive
pretty
rabbit hole
much.
tonight.
Pretty much.
yeah,
The system that I've got does a couple different things. Um, these will sound like bold claims, but I've observed free energy. I've observed loss of mass. I've observed anomalies when it comes to my clocks. I've observed a lot of things that just didn't make sense to me
yeah,
scientifically until I started to do the research. Now I'm just absolutely blown away at what I'm finding.
yeah. It's it has to do with manipulation of the ether, really, because the ether will definitely react and distort time space. In my personal opinion, if you can manipulate the ether around you and displace it in a certain way using either a frequency or a harmonic or a waveguide or some sort, the ether will react against, gravity or space time, whichever you want to look at it.
Mike, look in the
So,
private chat.
private
Yeah,
chat.
absolutely. I think that if you disturb the, I don't know, some people call it the cosmic background, some people call it ether. You could call it what you will, but if you disturb that ether, um, and then let that disturbance go, I believe you can collect a bit of that energy. And if you can keep doing that in a repetitive motion, you
Yeah.
can bank power for yourself, so to speak.
Because, like, when I was doing my experiments back about 5 years ago, I had the pulse motor going, I had the end machine running, and I had a plasma ball going. So it's kind of the recipe that John Hutchison had back in his early days, back in the '80s,
I
of
like
having
that.
all this stuff happen: electrostatics, a pulsating field, a rotating magnetic field created by the end machine. I had the recipe there to have some effects. And one of them was time dilation. My clock started going weird.
Yep.
And plus I was doing it in the basement of a house, and because I was confined in this space, that energy was able to accumulate and build up over a period of time. And that's when all the interesting stuff started to happen. And
Yes.
I thought it was just a freak, just a fluke. But it started happening more than once. And depending on my configuration, we either enhance it or retard it. So it's a recipe. We were even touching on this last week. You
Yep.
have to
The
have the right
formula.
recipe. Yeah, the formula, the recipe. You have to have all that stuff together to make some of
Absolutely.
these have these effects, right? So yeah, everybody, we got the live chat open. So if you have any questions, comments that you want me to throw at Gerald and myself and Mike, I can do so. Live chat is open. So
All right.
yeah,
I'm going
let's
to stop the share. I just sort of rolled through that so that if anybody wanted to read it later, they can just scroll through the
yeah,
video and they've got it.
for sure. Yeah, maybe if you get a chance, Gerald, put it in the live chat, the link online, and then everybody can go and download the. I guess it's what in a PDF or.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how. Okay. So I got it on my computer. I got to find
Right.
you the link.
Yeah, no pressure. No,
Yeah.
yes. So I found out some interesting things about Bendini and what he was doing with his batteries. Now, something I kind of totally overlooked, and you can go on BitChute download site, and it's got the full series of energy from the vacuum series on there. Really urge everybody to start watching those videos because I've been watching a few of them this week, and one of them is talking about his batteries and how he charges batteries. So the first very important thing he says when you're charging a battery that you're using radiant energy, you have to discharge the battery. Discharge the battery from the regular electricity that comes with the battery stock. Okay. Discharge it
Yeah.
down to about 2 volts if possible. Fully discharge the battery.
Yeah.
Then you do the radiant charge with an empty battery. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
from then on there, that battery has to be charged with radiant energy and nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you'll destroy the charge.
Well, you would destroy your regular battery
That's
because it's
very
got,
interesting information right there.
Yeah,
yeah,
Bendini, he was very adamant about your secondary battery being absolutely dead. He's like, if you could
yeah,
find one on the corner that's like been sitting there for 2 years, that's what you want.
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
prepping a few of those. So yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
So, no,
Me too.
you're right. Um, it's the desulfation of the old batteries is what you want to pump the radiant energy into that battery. But what he's saying is, as soon as that battery's been charged with a radiant charge, it has to stay that way. If you try to charge it with a regular battery charger, you destroy the battery. Okay. So what he's doing is taking a regular off-the-shelf battery to run the system. So that'd be their primary battery. Then the flux and his charging system would charge the battery that's charged with the radiant power. So after that battery is charged, the one with the radiant energy, he says you hook that up to an inverter and recharge your drive battery, your primary battery. And that's how you do it in the loop. So you never charge a regular charged battery with radiant power. You have to discharge it, and
Not only that, sorry, go ahead.
you have to keep those two different batteries separate. The regular battery from the radiant energy battery. The regular battery is what powers the system. That's the primary battery. The radiant energy battery, you can do whatever you want with it, or if you want to recharge the primary battery to keep the system going, he says you have to use a regular inverter and charger to charge that primary battery. Because
And
he
that
says if you do,
that
Go ahead.
secondary, it acts strange. Like there's
Well,
anomalies with it. Like I've
yeah,
drained it and then I left it alone for a day and it charged itself. It blew my
that's
mind.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does.
Stuff like that. Effects like that a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like it creates its own dipole in the battery itself and it stays there. And as long as you keep recharging it with that dipole once in a while, it will recharge itself every
That's a good way of
I don't
doing
know
it,
how
Gerald.
much. I never tested the whole difference in
Yeah,
current. But
well, the battery
It's like
rebounds
that Wimhurst
faster.
generator. You run it in one location and move it away, and you still have that frequency over there, right?
Yeah, you have like a sweet zone. Yeah, but I think what
No, I'm saying like
the
they run the generator in one like here, you know, and they turn it off and move it away and
yeah,
measure the
like
signal. It's still there. The signal's
see,
still there, even though the generator's not there. It's
so
kind of the
you
same
can
thing
get
going
this.
on with the battery.
Yeah, now you can get the similar effect with the large capacitors, the giant ones. You know, the 2500-volt DC one I have, the really big one that's oil filled. Well, that capacitor is only 8 microfarad in capacitance, but that capacitor has a very interesting characteristic. When you discharge, or say you short it out with, say, a screwdriver, okay, it'll make a large bang. You know, the voltage inside the capacitor will go to zero, but if you let it sit for about 10 minutes, half the power comes back
Right.
on its own.
That
And that's
sounds
called,
like free energy in a sense too.
well, it's called dielectric polarization. So what happens is the plates inside, because it's a well-known fact that
It's
there is no
voltage
electric.
memory.
It's kind of, yeah, kind of like voltage memory, but a lot of people think the voltage is actually inside the capacitor. It's That's actually wrong. Those capacitor plates inside are holding a static charge. There's no actual electricity in it. It's holding a static charge between the plates until that static charge has a pathway out of it. That's when it becomes electricity again. It's not actual power in it. It's actually a static constant that's created in there with the separation of the dielectric between the two plates. So until the path has been given to that capacitor, then it now exchanges over to the second plate and creates your electricity on the other side. So I've actually replicated that dielectric constant where I've discharged it completely and I'll leave it for like 30 minutes in the
Gerald,
battery.
you got some run
It,
capacity, huh?
yeah, those ones there, but I got the really big one. I got the real, like the canister. It's like 10 inches tall. It's, yeah, like those. Yes, those ones there. They do it quite well. How many microfarad is that?
They do what, Mike? Store the charge,
They
or
No, they after you discharge it, say you short it out with a screwdriver, you let it sit for 10 minutes and half the power comes back.
oh, they come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I don't understand.
I don't know why my mic shut off there, but yeah, that's I have 6
Well,
of these. So it's only
well,
10 microfarads.
yeah,
Not,
I
you know,
got
most capacitors do that. That's most of them.
yeah, most of them do. Yeah, I've even done it with the super caps as well. But the big
But
ones,
why?
the
Why do
one
they do that? You're not even giving them charge, and they're going back.
no is because there's still a static charge on the plates even after it's been discharged. The charge still, the charge is actually coming from the dielectric. The dielectric medium in the middle of the two plates
It's like
is
you
that
tuned it by giving the capacitor the first
it's
charge
yeah,
that it ever
yeah,
received. You're tuning
I
it
don't
by
know
doing that.
not just tuning it, but I think the dielectric has been activated and it's still drawing in static medium from the ether back into the dielectric, which keeps the plates charged up, or actually causes like a 0 point or like a negative in the capacitor. Something has to replace it, so it's going to draw
Maybe
ether
just being a
energy.
semiconductor is all you really
Oh,
need
that's
is to have that
well.
semiconductor.
I see what
If
Mike
you're a
Faraday is trying
semiconductor,
to
you're
say.
semi-flowing.
Yeah, I see what Mike Faraday is trying to say. I also see what Mike Does is trying to say. You're both saying the
Yeah,
same thing from different angles.
Yeah.
That's, you know what? That's very interesting. I
So
want to try
a
that.
capacitor is a semiconductor. So
Yeah.
League of Extraordinary Inventors.
it's
Woohoo!
Yeah.
semiconductors, right?
It's an effect that a lot of people don't realize. Like, I got another one sitting on the floor. It's 12,000 microfarad and it can handle 60 volts DC. And I get the same effect. Actually, I have it hooked up to a battery with a diode, and it'll take the power away. And then if I disconnect the battery from the capacitor will actually charge itself and go up 3 or 4 volts in power with it just sitting there on its own. And
I,
then I can take the wire again, attach it to the battery, and keep charging the battery.
I've always wondered about that when you're blowing off the capacitor, like you're putting a screwdriver across that, you're creating a spark gap. So you're not creating a natural type of a
Yep,
vacuum. Okay,
yep,
that makes
that's
sense to me.
Pure
exactly.
plasma.
You're creating a vacuum in the dielectric.
Yeah,
So if you create a zero space in there, the ether's got to fill that space back up again
yeah, it's a good point.
because
Oh, what's more?
there's really no other explanation why
Well,
it would actually
let
do
me
that.
add to what you're saying by shorting out the terminals with the screwdriver. So you're shorting out two plates that have um, two potentials of alike differences. So they're of alike differences. In other words, they're two plates of the same geometry, so they're kind of already tuned to each other,
That's right.
and they're also of opposite polarities. So that's the differences part. The
Right.
alike part is the geometry of the plates are the same, and the differences is the polarity. So they're of
Right.
alike differences, and that's what gives them the the the, the flow rate, or the vibration, or pressure differential.
Yeah.
The pressure
Yeah. The
differential.
differential.
Yeah. Having a
Yeah.
like difference, different potentials. I mean, really, there's no negative. There's just two positives, one greater positive and one lesser positive. The lesser positive is what we're calling a negative for
Right.
for our understanding's sake. But
Well,
in
well,
reality,
see,
it's just two potentials. They're two potentials. There's no such thing as a negative potential. It's just
Well, there's
for our thinking, and we call it a negative for us to
potential
be able
well,
difference.
we'll see. Well,
Yeah.
a potential difference because when you short it out, you're removing the static charge on the plates. It's coming out of that median, right? Now,
Well, when you
because the
short it out, you're
dielectric,
allowing the higher potential to flow to the lower potential.
that's right.
Even if
And
they're even if the plates are not charged, they were charged once, and they've been polarized with two different poles on each plate. So that
right,
there is two potentials, not one negative, not one positive, but two positives. One greater positive, one lesser positive. So now the greater positive will flow to the lesser positive, or what we
yeah,
call the negative.
right.
We just
Yeah,
call
it
it the
Because it
makes
has
sense.
negative
to.
because we
But
wouldn't be able to we would not be able to comprehend this if we did not call it the negative. We
yeah,
called it
there'd
the
Yeah,
be too
negative.
because
many. Hey, Mike, there'd be too many lesser positives in that equation, right?
Exactly. Everything would be the
but
lesser positive down the line.
but I think
But
what's
in that,
important here is
you're just creating the next negative.
yeah.
So all the other
See, the
positives
thing
will flow
is,
there now.
you have to understand that there's something happening in between the plates in the dielectric itself, even after it's been discharged.
But in
There has
reality,
to be
the two
something
poles
going
meet in the middle. Actually, in reality,
right in the dielectric. Yeah, the dielectrics between the two plates. So even after a discharge, there's still a flow of current into the system that is not being fed by by the terminals. It's coming from some other medium.
Yeah, almost
It's not
like a low level interferometry because you're crossing your positive and your negative, and that spark gap is that third line. So it's almost, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah,
well,
and the electron
that spark is the higher potential moving to the lower potential.
exactly. But
Yeah,
by doing so, going from the higher potential to the lower potential, it creates a stream, almost like a vacuumized area where it pulls in more electrons.
Yeah,
At
it's
least that's the
pulling it in.
theory.
Yeah,
That's a good way
because
of putting it,
there's
Gerald.
yeah,
It
because
creates a
there's no other way
flow
to.
or vibration.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying
yeah.
to eliminate this notion of moving, of things moving, or electrons moving.
Well,
I
I
say
get what
Well,
you're
it's just
saying.
vibrating.
It's yeah, but we see a movement because of the way it vibrates, hence a
right.
wave and a particle, right?
There's
That's why
there's a
when I say
transfer.
movement, I don't mean like there's a stream of them and
Well,
they're flying.
energy, we see
What?
moving because we see the
Well,
matter moving. So
isn't
energy does move
vibration
matter.
movement in itself?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, but I know what he's talking about flow, as if you were like to say throw water. It goes from point A to point B, whereas electrons they vibrate up and down and create a wave because as they vibrate one, they vibrate the next and vibrate the next and the next and so on and
Right.
so forth.
There's a transfer of charge.
Yeah, and it creates a wave through the electrons,
The
and
wave
that's the
saturates the
movement.
environment as far as it can go, and all the
Yeah,
water is moving together. It's not actually moving. It's not moving. It's vibrating together. It's not moving. It's
but
Right.
it but our perception because we only see it 60 hertz per second, we see
Right.
movement. But you're right, it's just
well, no,
vibrating.
wait,
But it's
wait.
vibrating too
Energy
fast.
can move matter, so or mass.
Yeah. So
So
if
the
that's
mass
the
is
case,
moving. Just the energy is not.
right. But when it's going through a dielectric medium,
It's vibrating.
any other any other particles that are in the vicinity will get drawn into the dielectric. It's coming from
Right.
somewhere. It's because I've done the test
Well,
over and over
because
and over
wait, the
again.
ether is the greatest potential, the greater potential. It is the
Right.
greatest potential.
So we're giving a pathway.
We're
The
creating a
Felix,
lower potential to the ether, and then another lower
actually,
potential to that lower
actually,
potential.
Felix is making a good point. Longitudinal versus transverse.
Hmm. Yeah, path of least resistance, so to speak, right?
Mm, definitely, but it's a very cool effect, and I've done it many times with the large capacitors. And the effects actually, the higher the voltage you put in those capacitors, the effects are even greater. Like I could like say pump 100 or 200 volts into those capacitors, discharge it, do a dead short with a screwdriver, get a big spark, and just let it sit there for about 10 minutes. Put your voltmeter on there. Might be quite surprised. You'll get about almost three-quarters of that voltage back in the capacitor again, which is pretty incredible.
I've seen batteries with 12.5 volts with 0 amps.
Yeah, well, that's when you get into the current-free potential. What my motor's running on. Like, I the batteries I'm using don't want to die. They're not dying. They've only gone down maybe about a volt in the last month and a bit now. But like I said, it almost has the same effect as the capacitor with the lead acid. You pull a bit of power off it, and you let the battery sit for a half hour, the voltage goes right back up to where it started. So there's a bit of a recovery,
I wonder
which
if your
is
batteries are conditioned now, kind of like
they could.
Bandini, like what
I
Bandini was saying.
Yeah, I think they are because they're not dying,
Makes sense.
and I could charge loaded capacitors. I could charge other batteries with it, and the thing just keeps chugging along like a perpetual friggin' dynamo. So
See, it kind of makes me wonder then if you can condition a battery in that sense and it would only take a scalar charge, then have you not created a positive and negative within the because you have your primary and now your secondary, and your secondary, like we said, it only takes a scalar charge. So essentially, that's like a negative uh, potential
negative
power.
resistance. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So
negative current potential. Yeah,
so then you're
negative
looking
current
at positive
potential.
and negative
What's
sitting side by
what's the
side each
difference
other.
between a scalar charge and a regular charge?
It's
Well,
it's
that's something everybody's been trying to figure out. If you can answer that, that's the $1 million
well,
question.
I mean,
using
I know
just
with the forward charge and the reverse charge.
well, see
What
the Tesla coil, if you tilt a Tesla coil, actually the longitudinal wave travels in a straight line up, right? Where the Tesla coil is standing up, that longitudinal
Oh,
wave is going straight up.
that's the
Now, if you
longitude.
turn, now, yeah, so if you turn the Tesla coil on its side like this, now the longitudinal waves can be going this direction. And that's how he was doing his transfer of power
So
for a
longitudinal is
long
the horizontal
distance.
wave.
If you turn your Tesla coil sideways,
Yeah,
it comes out the
transverse
top.
is that. Transverse is actually the horizontal wave.
Transverse is here. So if
Yeah.
you have your Tesla coil
So wait,
standing up,
longitudinal is
tra-
a vertical wave because when you turn the
right,
coil sideways, it would create a
transverse
vertical
is
wave.
this way. Transverse is this way. So if your Tesla coil is standing up, the wave is going this way. That's transverse.
No, I gotta
Longitudinal
ask.
is
Sorry, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead,
it's
Mike.
okay.
Well, I was just gonna
So
say
that
transverse waves. Do most coils produce that, or is that a rarity?
well, the transverse wave is a very
Isn't that just
it's
another word for
wasteful.
horizontal?
Well, it's
Well,
wasteful. It loses power. See, where a longitudinal wave can basically penetrate anything because of
what
the
if you had
nature of the
both? That's the
what's
weird
that?
part. What if you had both? Then you're creating a
Oh,
standing wave. Is that not correct?
mm,
Because you got
I guess
transverse and you got longitudinal. Therefore, your field lines would connect easier, I would think.
right. See, the current comes in from the side, in the
Yeah,
transverse way. Longitudinal, you get the distance and the penetrability
Why
of
don't
that
they call it
waveform.
vertical and horizontal wave? Why?
I don't know,
They just
term.
call it's longitudinal and transverse. It's just the way they, like radio waves. If you're like a ham operator, you know, the
Yeah,
ham operators, they work with these coil and dipole antennas all the time, and some of them have been experimenting with the longitudinal type wave versus the transverse. The transverse, you need a
I know
massive amount of
the
conductor.
horizontal wave is omnidirectional. It's omnidirectional.
Yeah, but
you
Horizontal.
the
need a massive
but
what to do? Say that again.
you need a massive coil to go with a transverse. There has to be a capacitance within that. So what the guys were doing, so they didn't have to make such a long antenna, they would increase the coil size, and then they could make the antenna shorter
Oh yeah,
and still
yeah,
get the same effect, right?
yep. That makes a lot of sense.
See now, like Felix is saying in our chat here, that longitudinal is it's a push pull
Yeah,
in the direction of the conductor,
I
right?
get that. I actually have that. It's almost an issue, but it's not in my larger coil. I have longitudinal and transverse waves happening at the same time, and my longitudinal waves, I use a ferrite core on the outside of my coil, and I use it as a pickup coil. But I have to use either a full wave bridge rectifier or the one wire half wave rectification in order to get power out. So, and you can literally see as it's pulsing the wave in and the wave out because you can see it by the shift of the voltage. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely really interesting. See, that's stuff that you know more of than I do because you work with the coils a lot.
Yeah, over 175 different ones I built all together. It's
Wow,
crazy. I was going
that's a
over them
lot
the
of
other day.
that's a
Yeah,
lot of wire.
How many? How many did you? Is that for real?
yeah, that's for real,
150?
man. That's for real.
Oh
175
God.
separate coils, all
I'm not gonna.
geometrically.
I built about 30. Yeah, I know what you're going for.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's
My
a lot of
hands hurt
winding.
sometimes, I tell you.
That's called dedication, man.
Yeah, well, I was trying to find something and I found it. Now I just
Yeah.
have to define it.
Hey, Mike, check out that link in the private chat. That's a interesting device. Something Tesla moves water without without a prop. It's just
Oh,
That's
I think I've
interesting.
seen something like that.
Bernie fell
it's
out. He says his phone
Yeah.
died. That sucks, Bernie. Maybe when it charges, you can come back or whatever.
I think he was on the road when he called us. So.
Oh, maybe. I know he was helping a friend out, he said.
Yeah, yeah, he was working.
Some video guy put it up a couple of days ago. He said he found a secret Tesla device and he replicated it, and it moves water uphill without no prop. It's nothing like that. It's just some kind of
Yeah, it creates
a
creates a cavitation.
solid state water pump. I can't believe it. I mean,
You know
Yeah,
what?
it's
I might
liquid.
know
So
which one you're talking about.
well, see, don't forget, water's magnetic.
solid state. It's not the bilge pump or whatever you call that thing that pumps uphill.
Okay,
It's
I
no
know
no
which
moving
one this
parts.
is. Okay,
It's in
so
the private
this is the
shots.
fun part.
The video.
I watched that video a few times, and then there was a guy in the States that replicated it, and he was trying to debunk it, and it worked.
Yeah,
No, it works
yeah.
because it's just two
Yeah,
poles
it's
and
interesting. I want to try it out. I have that
Well,
type of motor. So.
if you take a really strong neodymium magnet and turn on the faucet for your sink, just put the magnet close to it. The water actually starts bending, even with
Really?
static electricity too. Yeah, it does. There is some magnetic effect on water.
there's some even
That's why.
climatic videos where the water, they make the water spiral with sound pulses.
Well, I know that
Yeah,
Incredible.
off.
yeah. Well, that's what I do with the structured water. I put it
And it
into
looks like the water's
a
going
vortex.
uphill, but it's not. It's going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is like Schauberger. He was doing experiments with this vortex water, and he would dope the water with quartz crystal in a fine powder and put it into the water. And he found just right where it bottlenecks at the bottom of the tornado, you could actually extract electrical charge out of it just by spinning the water with this quartz crystal powder. So you would dope the water basically, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's interesting. Kind of brings a thought to the Stanley Meyer EPG system. But he was using, I don't even know. Some people say it was aluminum inside of it, but he was using a magnetic gas and he was pumping it, and then he was picking up the static from it, or using tons of copper to pick it up as it was flowing through quarter-inch copper pipe. So it's interesting stuff. I kind of wonder if that quartz crystal works. I have a bunch of it. I
So
should crush it up, try it.
yeah, that's I've got calcite works really good apparently, and I have some other ones that have more of a carbon inside. So yeah, crush it up really fine and it's almost like a powder. And then if you got one of those magnetic stirring, the ones they use in the lab, then you can just dope the water with that, and spin it, and put a probe in there, see if you can get some kind of a charge displacement.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe a stick of nickel and I don't even know. Maybe use copper
I
on
would
the other
say,
side. Iron.
well, I would actually put carbon in the water, like
Oh yeah, I got carbon
uh,
rods.
carbon rods. Like if you got activated carbon, you could use that.
Well, I
Use
got graphite rods actually.
Okay,
That
that
what they
would
are?
work.
Yeah,
But
graphite.
if you can grind that up into a fine powder and put that into the water with the quartz crystal, spin it. Who knows? You might get some weird effects.
That's interesting. I might try that.
I know Schauberger was working on it. That's when the Nazis snatched him.
That
I don't
would
think
suck.
Don't get me into
I'm
that
not
story.
laughing.
The Nazis snatched a lot of people.
They did.
Yeah,
A lot of
well, they
scientists.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this yeah, we could go down the deep end with that one because he
Oh yeah,
was
that
also
would suck. You're
like
sitting
he
there
was
working.
after
Go ahead.
yeah, he was looking for all the rare artifacts like the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, the Templar tablets, all this
Yep.
stuff. He had guys out all over the place, especially I think he had his agents all over Egypt looking for stuff.
Yeah, he was
And
looking
that
for the Ark in Egypt.
right, and that's where the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark started. That was
Yep.
actually based on a true events that the Nazis were looking for this stuff. Why? Well, there's many speculations on why he was looking for this stuff. Hidden
because
technology.
he was part of the Thule Society, right? And they had
Yeah,
information on how the pyramids worked. And like I said,
yeah,
I've done so much like research on pyramids, it's insane. And tests, oh my! I fully believe that they had like a threefold purpose. They were there to heal you, and they were there
yeah,
for electroculture, and they were there to
yeah,
provide power for the land. I fully
yeah.
believe that.
Because, and I believe that whole area where the Giza Plateau is, that was all lush forest and green, and it was living,
Yep. And the River
right?
Nile came right up to the Pyramid of Giza at that time in history. Now it's moved, right? But at that
Right.
time, the Nile was really close. And when the moon waxed and waned, the aquifer underneath the pyramid would raise and lower, creating pressure from gases. And it was an amazing system.
Hmm. Yeah, the pyramids are still, and yeah, Tesla apparently went to the pyramids, I think twice or three times, and
Oh,
in
he
his
did.
later years,
Yeah.
yeah, he
He
went there a
loved the
couple of
pyramids.
times.
He was trying to figure them out.
Yeah,
How did he get there?
well,
I thought he was broke.
no,
How did he
this
get
was
to
in
the
his earlier.
pyramids?
No,
Even
he was
today, you
going
gotta,
there.
spend 5 grand to go there. How
Well,
does-
back then he had a lot of backers helping him out back then, but
In
in
the
his later
beginning, yeah.
years,
Before he
yeah,
came to the United States, he went there. Huh?
but in his later years, in his 70s, he started really doing a lot of experiments with quartz crystal. He made a couple of comments saying that they're actually sentient, they're actually living beings, not like you and I, but they're still a living being. So
Well,
that's
they hold
pretty.
data.
It's pretty um, bold statement for him to make a claim like that without any kind of, with no scientific backing. I think he knew a lot more about the quartz crystal than meets the eye. Like today, if he were alive today and he were able to work with transducers and stuff like that, could you imagine the devices he would come up with?
Oh, be crazy.
He would be able to tune right into the Earth's frequency using those.
Yeah, probably. Probably. The guy was a
Hmm.
genius.
So he
Yeah.
And
went
he did it.
to the pyramids.
Yeah, and did you guys know that the aquifer that sits underneath Giza is made out of quartz crystal?
Go
So
figure.
as the River Nile would come up and it would put pressure on it, you'd have high voltage discharges within the water, and it would
Right.
Sure.
break the water between hydrogen and oxygen. That gas would build up. It would
I wonder if it
ionize.
actually. I wonder if it actually lit up that whole region.
I fully believe it did. I believe that pyramid, when it had its casing stones on it and the capstone, you could see it for hundreds and hundreds of miles, if not thousands. Who knows? It literally lit right up.
Could you imagine how that actually would have looked? Like
Oh
just 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 a pyramid on its own is impressive, but to see it at nighttime glowing, that would be
yeah.
What if it's
just
still working today?
no, it's dead. No, it was looted so
Well,
badly.
why does it have to
It was
be?
Well, you'd have
it
to
Why does
just
it have
remember.
to? Why does it have to have moving parts to be working? Why
Well,
does
you
no,
something have
well,
to
there's
be moving? Why does
none
it
of the
have to be
parts
the
are
the
moving.
Nile? Why can't
I
the
think
Well,
geometry
because
alone?
the
No, no.
water
I
has
think
Why
to be
can't the
there.
geometry alone be enough for it to work?
well, I think at the peak of the pyramids there were gold
Yeah,
or
there
copper.
was a there was a
There,
pyramid
there
made out
was
of electrum.
Well, hold
It's
on. People
gold,
are
silver, and
replicating
copper
pyramid
mixed
tech
together.
today, and they don't have no moving parts, and they're getting
Oh, I'm sure you
readings.
can get power out of the Pyramid of Giza today, like through static, just from its very shape and height.
Right.
But it's
I
not
know
going to
there's
operate the
chambers
way it
in
used to.
there, and probably those things had functions and all that
Yep.
when the
well,
Nile
it's probably filled
was
with
there.
it's probably it was probably filled with water. Yeah, you have to have that
Yeah.
water
You
in
Well, the
there.
know,
bottom part
what I'm
was.
saying
The upper
is that
part was
these
gas.
people were so smart. If they were people, I don't know, but they were so smart that whoever built this thing, I don't think it was totally dependent on water to run. I think it could run as well without water, just by geometry. That's
If
how intelligent I think these people or whoever built it.
If
See,
the
the
cap was
problem
still
builders
is,
are.
there and the casing stones were still there, you would get a lot out of it without water. But water was it was a necessary thing because it produced
yeah,
the hydrogen gas that you could ionize that created
yeah.
that pressure within it, like a great
And
big giant heating
what was the
capacity.
use? What use did they have for hydrogen gas back then?
What use for what?
What use did the Egyptians use the hydrogen gas for?
Well, they
What
didn't
did they
use the
do with it?
hydrogen
The
gas, but
gas
what it
that
did
they made.
is it ionized inside the pyramid and it created high voltage in the area. So the whole area was kind of like staticked right out, right? And then there was temples at the bottom of the pyramid, and
Maybe I
those
don't know.
ox that the priests carried, those were actually like tuning forks. So let's say you broke your arm,
Wait, you're
you
saying they built the pyramids to control the people with frequency
no, I believe that they
by
built the
ionizing the
pyramid.
city in some kind of a
I think
advanced
the pyramids.
frequency
I
I
think
think it was
civilization
meant for
of
electroculture.
frequency?
I think it was meant for electroculture and for healing the people, and the power was
and
an added bonus. That's what I think because
personally,
they needed power
I
for
don't.
that.
Maybe.
What's that?
I don't think the Egyptians built the pyramids at all. I think they were
No.
there way before the Egyptians. The
I
Egyptians
agree with Mike
inherited.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there way before the Egyptians arrived.
Right.
Yeah,
They
we're all in
inherited.
agreement with that one, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, the problem is today is any kind of real science being done to that pyramid has been suppressed, and they have this faction of the Egyptian government that protects that landmark, and they govern everything that goes on with it. You know, some guys would like to come and do experiments, they won't get access to it. They won't allow them.
Yeah, nobody's allowed on top anymore because of that one
Right?
experiment that shocked that
Yeah,
scientist there. Yep. They won't allow
yeah.
it
That's what I'm
because
saying.
then
It's the
you're gonna
geometry,
know
the
that what it is.
triangle. The triangle has a degree, an angle degree that allows for this selection
Vortex.
per se. Selection of the vibration flow of the flow vibration.
Yeah, but you can increase
The
the
angle
current.
of the triangle has an angle. That
No, I
angle is
agree 100%.
that's all
I've
you
I've
need.
studied
That
that.
angle,
But in order to increase the current, in order to
the 90
expand
degrees,
that
whatever.
electroculture throughout the land, you need the gases. You need it to be contained because of the capacitance.
Well, what if that angle is all you needed to create the gases? The angle is creating the vibrational flow that which then creates the gases or whatever.
Maybe, but I just think that would be too simple. I think it was a little bit
You
more
need the
elaborate. You
angle.
could be
You need
right
an
though.
angle
You could be right.
to collect the etheric flow. You need to have the golden ratio, the golden angle,
Yeah,
whatever
no,
they
I
call
get
it.
that.
I don't know. It's an
Yeah.
angle. It's not a ratio. It's an angle.
I'm just
I
gonna
don't know
scoot
why
up
they
for a
call it a
quick
ratio.
smoke, guys. I'm
It's a
just gonna scoot
golden
up for a quick
angle.
smoke.
Go ahead, Mike. Have your
Okay.
smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
90
I get the
degrees,
whole angle
45
part of it. I
degrees.
do. I agree with you. I know there's power in it now, just by the very shape of it itself and the height and mass. But I think there was more power when it was operating. But I do
It
think you're
was.
right. I think you could pull power of it right now. Maybe maybe the surrounding houses at the bottom of it could have all their lights for free, just as it stands now. But they'll never allow it.
I mean, builders like that of monuments, that kind of thing. That's got to have redundancy. So it's got to work with or without water, with or without air, with or without light, or whatever. These builders are redundant builders. They build things that can work on the scarcest of things,
Oh
next
no,
to
I agree
nothing.
with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
Way
I just
advanced,
think
way
it,
advanced.
I think it worked better when it was all working together, but I do think you can pull power of it as is. Because look at that one scientist in 19 I think it's 1938. He was shocking his assistants because he took his wine bottle, he covered it in aluminum, basically made a Baghdad battery, and he was shocking them.
Am
Just
I
from
correct by
standing on
saying that the
top of
pyramid
it.
has three sides or four sides?
Four. I think that one has
So
four, yeah.
four, but they're actually eight because each side has two.
Yes, you're right. It is eight because there's an indent in every. side. You barely
and
see it,
and
but it's there.
and that okay, so it's a four-sided triangle for conversation's sake, with
Yep,
with a line
yep,
on each side in the middle,
yep,
creating another
yep,
angle for the pressure from above to fall onto that side with that angle and then float down, just like
yep.
as if water were to come down, like this angle, the way it's like a roof drains water with an angle,
Oh
the
yeah, I do.
pyramid has this. It's as if they did that little indentation to capture the slightest or the lightest of water. Maybe the water in the air, the hydrogen
And
in the air.
because it's seen, here's the thing. And because it's so arid out there, we can never test it. But if those caps, like if that cover stone was on there, the casings, and water was hit that, those casing stones were piezoelectric. So I guarantee you, just the very fall of those drops
So maybe
were
when it
creating
rains and having
electricity.
those angles in the middle, and then it would allow the water to flow straight down, and it would double as a water collector.
Yeah, that's possible. Definitely
Maybe
possible.
maybe those divisions in the middle of the sides were collecting water for some reason.
I don't
I've
know.
no-
I'm not really sure about why those are there. I just know that they are.
At the bottom of the pyramid, so there's got to be holes and ports for
There's
right where
actually
those.
there's a group that just started digging, and they
They
got, I
stop
don't know
they
how they
stop
got
everybody that
permission.
tries to dig around the bottom because they know there's ports and things around.
Ah,
They
but
don't
they
want you.
just
They don't want you
started.
to find it. They don't want you to know.
There's
Wow.
a new representative for the Egyptian pyramids, and he's letting them dig. I got
You mean
pictures
not
of it.
not the
It's
other
pretty cool.
not the other jerk, Sawasi, whatever his name is.
No, that guy's out. He got caught
He's such a
selling
liar, that guy.
artifacts. Oh yeah, I know. He's a real piece of work, that guy. Selling
He's
Egyptian
always stopping
artifacts.
people from going. Certain. No, we only the executives can go back there.
Yeah, you know why? Because you'll find evidence that it doesn't belong to the Egyptians. They don't
Right,
want that.
probably.
Yeah. That's why certain places are locked off. It's not because it's, some great thing, although it may
Well,
be.
let's
There may
just
be
admit it.
some
You don't
form of
see that.
fact
You don't
there.
see any archives from the pharaohs with blueprints of those pyramids.
Yeah, I know. There was the king's list, but it's hard to understand because some kings apparently lived 20,000 years. But our timelines don't line up. Unless, of course, the pyramids stop time in some way, shape, or form, which is a possibility.
Well, I mean, when they figure out why the sides were divided in the middle, they're gonna know a lot more.
Yep. No, I agree. I hope this new Egyptian caretaker
Yeah, I don't think it's just
does
to
way
catch
more
water and
experiments.
channel it. I don't know.
It's got to be more than that, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you're
it's a
talking about
big
such
it's a
a,
big structure. It was designed to last throughout the ages. This thing is
yeah,
going to have redundancy. It's not going to be dependent on the Nile. It's going to be a redundant device, meaning it will work with nothing but no water, or with water. You don't build something like that to last throughout the ages and not have redundancy.
yeah.
And
But
so
they
they
also
planned they
thought
planned for the Nile to go dry. I'm sure
they
of it.
also thought that they were all powerful as well, right? And they could change things, and they
Maybe
couldn't.
when they built the pyramids, they figured that the Nile would just get it running, and then after it got running by the Nile, it doesn't need the Nile anymore. It keeps running.
Maybe, maybe
That's
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 the
their
thought.
plan for redundancy.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe the water came from underground, underneath the aquifer in that sense. So
Maybe
maybe
all
they
it needed
didn't
is
need the Nile.
one like a battery gets charged once and it's good to go.
Well, that's true actually, because the tide would rise once a day. So yeah, it would just be like a battery charging.
Maybe the pyramids just needed one, lunar cycle to get fully activated for the rest of the, and then be tuned with the moon or whatever, and no longer need the river and operate off the moon. It's an oscillating device of some kind.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an oscillator. And the food that was grown out of that area at the time, there was so much, it was insane. Provided food for everybody in
Yeah,
in
there
even the
certainly
surrounding
was.
areas.
Yeah,
Lecture culture is amazing.
there's evidence of that through Cleopatra's garden and all that. She had a magnificent uh, garden full of fruits and full of food and stuff.
Yeah,
So there
I'm
is
starting
writings
my.
of that.
Go ahead.
There's writings of great, achievements in farming, but I still think that, they inherited this technology. They found it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
You know.
it's not the Egyptians. It's just the only reference I have to
I
say.
think the
I don't
Egyptians
want
had
to
the
say
best
that I'm the only
understanding
one.
of it. That's what happened.
Yeah,
They were the first
well, I
people
think
to find it,
I
I
and
think
agree
the
with that.
they have the
Egyptians.
best understanding of it too. Probably.
I think the Egyptians were part of the people that actually kind of wrecked the pyramid. There was a lot of looting in one point in their history, and the Sphinx face got defaced, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that was happening in that time period. Because all the different pharaohs, you know, I guess they had their own ideologies of what they wanted everybody to see. And I forget the name of the one pharaoh. He was responsible why the face of the Sphinx got defaced.
Akhenaten?
I can't remember. I wish I could
No,
remember.
I could
Could
be
have been,
wrong on that.
Khufu.
yeah, could have been Khufu. Yeah, that rings a bell. One of
There
them
was that
did it.
one pharaoh that was extremely tall and had a big head, and
Yeah.
That's a
and they
good
thought
way
he
of
was an
describing
alien.
him too, because
He
he
was
did have a
murdered
big
too, right?
head.
He was
See,
murdered because they
see,
thought
and the other thing too is okay. Here's a good argument. If
it
the
was Khufu.
pyramids were created, if the pyramids were created by the Egyptians, don't you think there would have been some kind of record of how they constructed the pyramid? And there
That's
Yeah,
my
is nothing.
argument. The pharaohs don't have blueprints of these pyramids
Nobody
in their
does.
archives, in the
So
pharaohs'
that's
archives. There is nothing
right.
about how they were built. No blueprints. You'd expect to
Right.
find them in the
Exactly.
pharaohs' archive.
That's right. But there's no blueprint, no
And if there are
uh,
any, they're
doc-
not telling us that there are those. Why would
yeah,
they
because
hold that back?
they won't disclose that because they weren't the ones who built it in the first place.
not only that, the purpose for it to be a gravestone, like, give me a freaking break, man. You're gonna
Yeah,
build something that huge, that much mass, that many slaves that it took to do for one
That
guy
perfectly
to die in
geometrical.
a box?
I'm
I don't
sorry.
believe it.
There was some other convention
I'm
method
all
of
for
building.
ego. Some people's egos is huge, but this ego,
Oh no,
no,
I get that, but that's just way too, like, too huge
that's not
even for
ego right there.
humanity.
That's not
Yeah,
ego. That's there's a limit to how far ego goes
yeah, I
with
agree.
the
What were you
with
gonna say,
stuff.
Mike?
Sorry, I forget. Right.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Like some drug lords build these amazing caskets for themselves before they die. Their ego is
true.
so huge and stuff. But building a pyramid, that's quite an
Well,
ego.
Well,
well,
not
the other
just
thing
one,
too is,
three.
you know, yeah, exactly. But the other thing too is, I think is really important that they said these were tombs for the pharaohs. Well, why are all the tombs outside of the pyramid? Like even King
Good
Tut,
point.
his crypt wasn't even in the pyramid, and he was
Right.
probably one of the most famous of all the pharaohs.
Yeah, he
It
was in the
wasn't
land
even
of the kings.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. If that's what they say that the pyramids were built as tombs, well, guess what? There's nothing in them that would suggest that it was used as a tomb. All the
I
tombs were right.
yeah, I
That's
don't
just the
believe that.
nature of man. When we don't know something, we rather give an answer than say we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
Absolutely
why
true.
would you listen to them? Like whoever said that they're tombs, they're obviously the authority to listen to on the pyramids. So we're already listening to the people that said that they were tombs. So to keep
yeah.
our
This,
ears tuned on them, they're going to have to give an answer
yeah. To make us believe that it was
that they know what they're
totally
talking
the
about.
Egypt. Yeah,
Yep,
it's like the total complete Egyptian dynasty, right? But I think all the real answers have been lost in time, right? I personally think the pyramids were built way before the Egyptians even arrived, and
I agree.
whoever built them had some technology to do this because we can't replicate that structure today. We even
Could
with
be
all
Atlantean,
machinery
huh?
we have.
I think
I
you're
think
both
it's
right because I think that it wasn't just the pyramid of Giza.
Pre-flood.
I think it was the pyramids that were all the way around the world and they operated as one tuning system for Earth itself. And the
yeah,
Great
and
Flood
Pre-Diluvian
destroyed
society,
it all.
civilization.
you know,
Pre-Diluvian
and
civilization.
it's not just Egypt. You know, you got the ones in Peru, you got the ones in Bosnia. You know, you
China,
got pyramids of China. You got pyramids all over the planet, and
I
there's
believe
no
we have a
real
couple in
proof.
They're on
Canada.
the moon too, and the Mars.
I found one that, or I believe I found one that's sitting underground in Saskatchewan, Mike. You and I should go
Really,
try and find this thing. Like
really.
I'm telling you, all the signs are there. It's crazy. I think it's
What's with the
under the
pyramids
dirt.
on the other planets too? That's another thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You know,
They're not just here on Earth.
maybe there was another civilization here predating man as we know it today, and they left these landmarks that seem to survive the weathering, you know, over thousands of years, and all the cataclysms that happened on the planet in between that time. That you know, just ended up in these certain areas and inherited it, and decide
yeah,
to say, "Oh yeah, we made it." When meanwhile they never did to begin with.
yeah.
So
If
that's
they
a big
made it,
thing why.
make another one and make it work. That would impress me. Otherwise, you don't know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
and you know when you build a structure like that, there would have been a record of how they built it, and they never
It's
did.
obviously a redundant structure. You know why? Because it's still there.
Well, yeah, it
If
survives
it if
time.
it wasn't redundant, it wouldn't be there.
You would
It'd be
think there'd be
gone.
records of how it's there and why it's there, let
Yeah,
alone just,
How come
it's a grave. Like, come
nobody
on.
could destroy the pyramid? Even Napoleon shot a cannon
You're
yeah,
at
right.
it.
Even in the Vedic texts, the old war that they had amongst their so-called gods, so to speak, when they battled, they didn't destroy the pyramids, and they apparently had powers that were greater than nukes, which is crazy. I don't know how true it is.
I'm not aware of this story. What's that
Yeah,
about
you
again?
look in the Vedic texts, it's like five,
Veda.
6,000 years ago, the Indian Vedic texts from India,
The Vimanas
the
or
Vamana.
whatever.
Yeah, the
And
Vamana
UFOs
apparently
were
had
fighting and
powers like
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
I think the
That's
Vimanas were actually using hydrogen to actually make their crafts lighter than air.
well, they also say they were using mercury. So I don't know. Maybe mercury and hydrogen, maybe both.
Yeah,
The Vamana is a crazy system. There's actual plans for it. There's a couple
yeah.
parts of it missing, but there's plans for it in the Vedic texts. It's
Well, that's
crazy.
the thing. Okay, so as crazy as technology as the Vimanas were, there's record of how they made them.
Yeah,
Why didn't this happen with the pyramid?
I agree. We have blueprints for every other building in the world. You got to have a blueprint to build a bathroom for Pete's sakes, and we don't have one for the pyramid itself. Come on, right?
Yes, we got one of the 10 wonders of the world, and we don't have a plan how they did it. You know,
Yeah,
just there's some disconnect here somewhere.
yeah. Something's
There-
missing. I don't know what it
Okay,
is.
well
yeah,
here
there's
I
a
can throw some insight to the disconnect in here. If you look at the word gypsy and another word for calling the gypsy people, you call them gypsians.
Yeah.
And if you put an E before the word gypsy, you get E gypsy. Or, if you take the word gypsian, which is the old way of calling people gypsies, is gypsian, and you put an E, you have Egyptian.
It's interesting.
So the Romani gypsies are the ones from Romania, but the gypsies They're the Egyptians. They were chased out of Egypt.
Makes me
Probably
wonder
after Rome fell or something.
if the gypsies were in Egypt at one point and they're the
I mean,
Egypt.
there's Egyptians, okay, but that does not mean the pyramids are Egyptian. They're in
No,
Egypt,
no, no,
though.
no. I get that totally. I'm with you on that, Mike. Totally. But I call it Egyptian pyramids for reference because what do you call it? The Atlantis pyramids. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
point
So,
of reference.
but I think it's just one of those things. It's one of the stories that's been lost in time, and we might never really know the origin of it,
Yep,
unfortunately.
I agree.
But but while it's here, we can try to figure out exactly what it did. And there's been many people that have been working on this stuff, like Les Brown and James. There's another guy who's an electrical engineer. I just saw the documentary on him. He was an electrical engineer back in the 70s. He went there and he actually created this pyramid that he said was actually creating a portal. He would spin the whole pyramid device. It was about a foot and a half by a foot and a half by a foot and a half. Um, and he has a weird kind of coil in the middle of it, but he would spin the entire coil on the centrifuge and hit it with electricity. And when he did that, the device actually lifted off the ground and also created some kind of force field bubble around it. But he
Wow,
said could have been, yeah, I'm trying to figure out the guy's name. I'll have to
that's
look
some
it up.
interesting info.
Yeah. So yeah, the pyramids are fascinating. They always will be. There's going to always be that mystery mystique about it. But yeah, definitely, I've done a few experiments with pyramids, and I was getting about 25 volts AC out of it,
Yeah,
creating
that doesn't
so
surprise me. If you go 30 feet up with a pyramid and you build it to a certain dimension, you're
yeah,
gonna get a
yeah,
jolt.
definitely. Yeah, it could be deadly.
Yeah, Les Brown says at least 220, maybe 400 volts. That's what he was getting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think when he got zapped, it made him fly back about 10 feet back from when he grounded it.
Yeah, it
He was
knocked him
using
out.
Yeah, it knocked him out cold, and he
Yeah.
had burns all on his arms and everything.
Yeah, it took
So
him
I
a
think,
while to recuperate on that one, he was saying.
yeah. Well, he took that apparatus apart after that happened. Yeah, just
Yeah, that was
redone a
made out of
bunch.
that was only made out
Shit.
of wood.
Yeah, he had a wood plank on the ground, and he made like a Tesla pancake coil. One
Yeah,
part
there
of the
was some
wire, the
parts
one
in there
end,
for sure.
yeah, the one end went into the ground, and he put 2-inch staples all over that board to create a better ground. And then he had a small coil at the top of the pyramid, a coil in counterclockwise, and he had these little pieces, strands of wire coming off the top of it. And then he attached sheep's wool
Yep.
to the coil. And when he brought it down and connected it to the ground of the actual coil on the bottom, that's when he got zapped and threw it
Yeah,
back
because he
into
was
the
holding the connection when he when he pulled the two wires together.
he became the ground.
Yeah,
So
that would
yeah,
hurt.
yeah, that would definitely hurt. Oh yeah, no doubt. So yeah, that was
I, I want to try and build one. I really do.
yeah. If
30
you got the
feet is
space
a
to
bit
do
big.
it, 30
Yeah.
feet's pretty big, but you still get pretty good effects, even a 10-foot one.
See, now
But
it makes me wonder because in France, I believe it's at the Louvre, they have a glass pyramid made out of glass and stainless steel.
Yeah.
Do
yeah,
they have static shock problems? I
sure,
wonder.
yeah, they
And
could, because any kind of glass is a great dielectric, and from what I heard, if you built a pyramid with using a PVC pipe or anything that's a good dielectric, Uh, from what I heard, copper is actually not a good material to use if you want to make a pyramid. So it has to be something that's dielectric. Now, the top of the pyramid, you could put copper or aluminum or anything that's a good static conductor.
Yep.
and you can put that at the top of the pyramid, at the crest, and that will work very well. So what you're really doing is just kind of enhancing the effect of the radiant energy device that Tesla was working. And I think the Wardenclyffe Tower is basically just that, his version of a pyramid.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Did you guys ever see
doing
the
the same
picture
thing the
of John
pyramid's
Keely's
doing,
pyramid?
Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
oscillating.
Did you ever see the picture of John Keely's pyramid? John Keely built an
Yeah, I
aluminum
believe so.
pyramid, and then he right at the top, he had the top cut off, and he put a piece of solid copper, like a capstone, on the top where it actually completed the
Yeah,
pyramid.
yeah,
And he took a picture with a Carillion photography camera, and you could see the scalar waves coming in to the top of the pyramid and
yeah.
hitting his coil and then lighting up his power system.
There you go.
So that's why, one of the reasons why I believe the pyramid's a generator. I think it
Yeah,
was meant to be.
yeah, exactly. Has all the signs because look at the type of stone that they used to construct the pyramid. It's probably one of the best materials of being a dielectric. You know,
Yeah,
you put a
limestone
nice,
creates,
yeah, limestone's amazing for it, and
yeah, it creates beautiful
you know,
sparks.
so all they need is a great conductor at the top of it, like at the crest, where you just either put copper or gold or whatever. And that's a great entry point for the radiant energy to enter the pyramid. So yeah, I think there's something to it. I really do.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Um, I hate to cut this short, but I kind of have to bail on you.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
got something I have to do early this coming morning. So
Yeah, I gotta. I'll be. We'll do 2 hours and then I'll have to cut it off because I gotta go to the dentist first thing in the morning. So no,
oh,
looking
that's
forward to
lovely.
that.
Yeah, I gotta watch my daughter. She's in a play, so I have to be up
Got it.
early, make sure she's there and all that. But
Awesome.
it's been an
Yeah,
awesome conversation. So I'm sorry I have to bail.
yeah, we'll have another one next Friday. We'll be
You know
doing the
what?
same
Next
show
Friday,
again.
I will have some live experiments for you. I have one ready, kind of, but my camera's not acting right, and I ordered a new internet camera. So hopefully, I've got the right one, and I'll be able to show the alternator generator running and the scooter, which
Yeah.
that's the part that I have done today. But um,
Mhm.
yeah, it'd be better if we waited till next week when I had a better camera because this thing sucks.
That's okay. No problem. We'll do all that
Okay,
next week
so
for sure. All right.
awesome. So
Thanks,
I'm
Gerald.
yeah,
Try it, Air Hug. That's the one I'm using.
with
Air Hug.
air hug.
Yeah, it doesn't have a mic in it, but it's 720, I think.
Huh. Maybe I'll check it out.
Something.
Awesome. Thanks for the tip. All right, guys. You guys
All
have a
USB.
right.
great night. Awesome
See
Okay.
you,
Thanks,
Joe.
conversation.
Gerald.
And we'll see you next
Have
Friday.
a good one. Yep. Take care.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. So for yeah, we've had a good show today. We had a lot of good topics. Mike, did you want to show something or?
Yeah, I was trying to show Gerald this. Oh, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, sure. So
Same thing. I was trying to show Gerald this. Ah, damn it.
yeah, I seen that on your channel this week. You were showing it. That's a good graphic.
Yeah, so trying to show another one. I was just trying to show you guys that if you wanted to replicate it.
But don't, yeah, put your YouTube channel in the live chat there, Nick, and people can check out your site. Um,
Let me see.
yeah, I've been just working on my system. I got some parts on order right now. Um, I'm going to be doing some more battery experiments probably in the next little while. So I'm getting to the point where my system's not killing the battery. So if I'm getting a negative
That's the one.
resistance, that one there. try that.
Yeah.
So maybe you can just go over the circuit or
So if you look at the green and red lights, how they do the figure eight around,
right.
do you see it?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
anyway, the red
Same
is
thing.
red. The red is the coil charging, and the green is the coil flying back. And this here you can, yeah, this there. There's I don't know how to explain it. It pulses back and forth, you know, between the two batteries.
Yeah,
And you
it's
look at,
similar to like Felix is saying. It looks similar to a Tesla switch.
well, there's four switches here, uh, two on each battery. You can see
It's how
the two on
you
the left.
channel the power around the circuit. The switches.
It's flying back from the coil on the left, the red coil. It's
Yeah,
going to turn green.
yeah,
It turned green right now, and it's you see it's the green battery. It's flying back to the battery on the right,
yeah,
and then the other coil turns red. It's charging, and it flies back to the battery on the left, and it keeps doing that. And and then it will drive a rotor like that with two magnets uh, and two coils, or you know, or four coils,
yeah,
two pairs of series coils.
yeah. And you can do a lot of experiments, with coils with inductors and also without inductors or different shapes. I was talking last week about actually making inductors for the coils that are actually like in a tube shape. So you minimize or control the amount of induction being created in the coil itself. Because if you use iron, um, I'm using the actual welding rods. Seems to be like a soft steel. Um, that helps in the collapse and the dissipation of the magnetic field quicker. So it prevents the lens effect from happening. Some people don't even use an inductor in their coils at all, right? So you have to. It's one of those things you just have to experiment with. I've
Well, I
been
didn't get
experimenting.
results with this. This here wasn't replicated yet, Felix. He's asking if I got results.
Yeah.
I didn't do the four switch version of this. I did the two switch version. I was just switching the positive on each battery.
Now,
And
what
what
type of
happened with
switch would you be using? Would you be
any
using
kind
like
you
an
want, but it's
SSR?
easier to use transistors. You can use reeds. You
Transistor.
can use whatever switch you want to use. You could use a double pole, double throw relay uh,
Yeah.
to do this if you want. Each double pole, double throw relay will be on each battery, controlling the two sides of the battery, the positive and negative.
Right.
Um, I'm going to use transistors, but I did this with two switches, one switch on the positive of each battery. And what happened with that is the flyback from one coil was feeding the other coil. So I went back to the drawing board and added two more switches. And now the flyback from one coil is feeding into the other battery instead of the other coil, which is what I wanted it to do. But I did not replicate the four switch version of this yet, but I know it works because you can see how it's operating here. I don't have to replicate it, but I'm going to replicate it. I don't have a lab. That's the problem.
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't be drawing all this stuff if I had a lab. Be
Yeah.
building it.
Exactly.
Just
That's what
not
I'm.
having a lab has motivated me to do all these drawings.
Yeah. 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 I don't have the space, and
But
well, where I do most of my experiments are on the kitchen table. If I were to have a real quote unquote lab,
I know it's
I could.
frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Or at least have a space where I could go and
You need a bright
set up all
light,
the gear.
a nice big table,
Yeah, exactly. Be able to do all the experiments and have all my testing gear and everything. that's the other thing too is testing this stuff because a lot of the equipment or a lot of test gear that we have, some of the stuff I'm doing doesn't make an accurate reading, right? I think the only thing that really has worked good for me in the past has been the oscilloscope, seeing what's going on, right? But I've got a lot of good clues coming from my oscilloscope that are letting me know what's actually going on with the waveform and how my flyback is working and how much I'm actually able to capture, you know. Like the big Renegade, I was getting 3/4 of a kilowatt in the flyback, which would fry most, semiconductors. But because I'm using mechanical make and break switch, I don't have that issue. And using a relay switch the way I'm using it, it's not even close to rated for 3/4 of a kilowatt of power. It's only rated for 12 volts. But the way I've configured it and the way I've set everything up, it's not damaging the relay. So,
Because you got it isolated with the optical.
yeah, and also the transducers help out as well because they have a certain amount of capacitance as well as resonance in it. And I think that helps tune the coil accordingly, kind of like a tuning fork for the coil itself. And yeah, I'm always getting great results whenever I use that combination.
The
I've
important thing
tried
to
out.
notice here. Sorry. The
Go ahead.
important thing to notice here is that the two switches on each battery are closing together.
Yeah.
That's key to this thing uh, flying back to the back
What
and forth.
software are you using? What software are you
For
using
the
for
animation,
animation?
that's just a regular
Yeah.
photo editor. It's called GIMP. Yeah, it's a
GIMP.
free one.
Okay.
It works on Windows.
Okay.
It works on
Yeah.
Linux,
I'll have to
probably
look
Mac
that up.
too. You don't have to pay nothing for it. It's free. You can donate to them. But
Yeah.
Photoshop is like, you can find it and get the serial and hack it or whatever. But GIMP is free and it's the same, does all the stuff that Photoshop does.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very user friendly too. GIMP.com, I think it is. But this definitely
Yeah.
works. I don't have to build this to know it works. It's the Bedini concept of,
Yeah.
flying back an inductor to a battery. Well, I just
Yeah.
modified that concept here,
I I've
and
been
I
kind of working on creating an actual capacitor dump circuit itself, and it
this
works.
dumps each
It works
cycle
well.
instead of waiting, or it's not a time dump. This is not a time dump.
Yeah.
This is an instantaneous dump, if you want to think of
Yeah.
it that way. It dumps
Yeah. See
each
the one.
pulse.
Yeah. See, mine would be like it would charge the capacitor for like 15 or
Definitely
20
not.
seconds and then dump.
Bedini was not thinking like that. He was timing it, and so this is definitely not on par with Bedini's strategy,
Yeah.
But he did say, take the idea and go with it, and so I did. And this is
Yeah.
my going with
That's
it.
your own
I'm
rendition.
definitely going to build this. I don't,
Yeah. It'd be
I'm
interesting to
happy to
see
build
how.
this thing,
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see how that works.
and mainly because of the spinning the wheel thing, because it's going to be very efficient at doing that at the very least. Because you don't have to swap the batteries to keep your wheel going, you know, with this here.
Yeah.
And you can still use the flyback capture concept from the Bedini's system without being there to keep your wheel going every time you have to swap the batteries.
Yeah.
Just run
Yeah.
it with this. I've seen other people build circuits and they're very, they're not too complicated, but they have a lot of components in there. And
Yeah. That's why.
they
Yeah, that's one
also
thing.
time it.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always tried to keep my system as simple as possible. Because if you got too much switching, too many transistors involved, then there's going to be mechanical losses in the system, right?
Right.
Even the wire itself is creating resistance in the
You kind
circuit
of
that's
lose
trying
redundancy
to.
too, I think.
Yeah, and you're losing some of the potential in the process, and yeah, that's where the mechanical losses are, right? So you want to make something that's really, really simple.
Right. And this, the complex, the only complicated thing here is the 4 switches.
Yeah,
But you could trigger at the base for 2 transistors to get this to work together. You just
right.
put the signal from your trigger winding to the
Yeah,
base of one transistor, and then just jump it to the other transistor's base, and to control the 2 switches together like that. And you can you can have one bifilar trigger 2 transistors like that.
yeah, you could. Yeah, yeah,
That's probably how I'm going to do it. I like the solid state version, but I like the non-solid state version better because
yeah. Yeah, make sure
you
you
you don't lose the
put a
rotary.
small resistor on that on the trigger because it has
Yeah.
to be, I believe, under 5 volts. Otherwise, you put any more than that, you're gonna fry the gate on it. You'll be like Gerald and fry like 30 in a week.
Yeah,
I've
this
done it
circuit
too.
don't show a bifilar, but you do know this.
I fried 2 or 3 SSRs in 1 week because of that problem.
The solid state relay.
Yeah, you got to worry about that too. They have a resistor built in the circuit, but sometimes something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
burned. The resistor burned.
yeah, could have. Yeah,
Well, this thing works. Anybody wants to build it, you're not going to have something that's not working. I'm not saying it's over Unity or something. I'm just saying it works. It's going to work. It will drive a rotor like this with this setup, and it will function off the Bedini system. It'll be operating the way the Bedini SG operates. It's just 2 Bedini SGs together, is what you're seeing here. Without instead of 4 batteries, it's 2. Only thing that's
yeah,
different is the circuitry, the way the diode is. Yeah, no, the 4 switches. That's what's different. There's 4 switches. That's what made it possible.
mm,
The second inductor and the having 4 switches makes this possible. This
yeah.
type of operation. The Bedini system
So
has
what?
2 batteries, one inductor, and one inductor's moving slide back to the other battery. This has 2 inductors
See
bouncing.
what I like.
This
See what I like about the reed switch over the inductors triggering, doing the actual trigger, is the fact that I can advance the timing on it or retard the timing. I have control over that. Where in your circuit, it's going to get triggered at those points and at those points only, right?
say again.
So the way your system is, you're taking that signal coming off the coils to actually trigger the circuit. See, with my proximity sensor
Yeah,
that I use with mine, is I can advance the timing or I can retard the timing. So,
with the auto isolator,
sorry,
the proximity
no,
sensor does that.
yeah, I can move it. I can move it back and forth around the wheel and advance the timing on it. I can adjust it. I put it
Right.
on
Well,
the
that
split.
timing would control the switches here.
Yeah.
Would
So
control the
that's what I
switch speed.
use it. That's what I use in mine because I like to get mine into. I call it the gallop, where the switch is going da 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 da. Do almost a skip, and I find that creates a great back EMF or a back spike that helps too because it's almost like a skip. It'll skip it, and that extra nanosecond of time allows that coil to saturate a little bit more than normal and give a more powerful of an implosion collapse. And that's really helped out make the efficiency of the system go that much better. And to the point where it's almost zero resistance between the battery and the power input. That's why my batteries are dying. I can't think of any other explanation. So
You think your batteries are dying? Why?
I can't figure out why because they're not dying.
They're hooked up to the oscillator, and they're not dying. Okay,
Well,
right.
they're
They're not
hooked up to
draining.
the
You're
system.
saying.
They're not draining. Very very little. Like I've used them over a
Well,
month.
because
I think I've
your flyback is recirculating.
no. I got a diode. I diode it. It's not hitting the battery.
Where's it
I
hitting?
got a
Where's it diving into?
the diode is right when the battery from the battery to the motor. I have a diode,
And where's the
so
diode pointing?
it's pointing towards the coil.
Back
So
to the coil
any
that's driving.
yep,
So you're feeding back the flyback to the coil that's driving. Oh,
right. I'm creating a ricochet.
that's similar to what this circuit right here is doing, only not feeding back to the
Right.
coil.
I'm
If you take one
not
of these
letting
switches
any
out, it will do that.
yeah because I'm not letting any of that feedback go back to the battery. So if my battery's not dying and
And
I'm
you don't
not
want it.
doing
You don't
anything,
want it going back to the battery. You're saying.
I don't. No. So
Why?
that more or less why? Because it's proving my point of how my motor
It's
is
killing the
operating.
dipole.
Well, yeah, no, this prevents it from killing the dipole. If you let it fly back to your battery, you've just killed your dipole.
And you got to create another one, right?
So
By
I'm
charging the
forcing
coil
it.
again.
I'm charging the coil again. Exactly. I'm not killing the dipole. That's what Bearden talks about. And I totally
Oh,
agree
wait.
with
So you're feeding the flyback back into the coil in the same polarity that it was polarized to begin with.
him. You got it.
Oh, now I'm seeing what you did. Okay,
That's
so
why I'm getting such a
you're
huge
not
spike.
feeding you're feeding, right. So you got plus and minus on the coil from your battery, and you're taking the
Yeah,
flyback plus and minus and hitting it again. It's like
right.
a double tap or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. It's basically creating.
The second
It's
tap
going like this.
is not from your battery though. It's from the coil itself. It's the flyback, right? That's slick.
Yep,
Oh, what
yep.
encouraged you to do that?
And well, you see,
What
when I
what
started doing
what gave you that
see,
idea?
you know what? It's all part of experimentation. I put it on there, and when I put it on there in that specific
Do you remember what
point
you're
in the
thinking of when
circuit,
you thought of that?
I was just
No.
going with instinct, going with pure instinct.
It's just at the time it was like a good idea. You just came to you that it's a good idea, and you just
Yeah,
did it.
you know what? And you know what? It worked. And I'm going, okay, my battery's not dying here. Why is it not dying?
Well, because the coil
So
is charging itself before the battery gets a chance to.
that's right, because I got the brake switch there. See, the second I
You're not
drop,
throwing the flyback out. You're not.
no,
You're
I'm
just
forcing it
recycling it
down.
back into the same coil that generated it.
Right, right. I'm accumulating that charge there and forcing it down to the load.
And all the battery is going to do is make up for the very minimal
Yep.
amount of juice to keep that, you know,
And that's the only reason why I can
that's a
figure out why my batteries are not dying. They won't die.
that's
This motor
another way of doing it right there.
yeah, it's experimentation. You just have to experiment. And since I put that diode in there, I noticed the battery did not die anymore. The second I took it off, then the battery started to die on me.
So let me get this straight. The flyback anode side
Yep.
is sorry, cathode side. Sorry, the flyback cathode side is touching the positive of the source battery.
Well, you got the spark
Because
gap
that's where, I mean,
switch.
the positive of the, the same rail of the positive
No, the
of the
second
source battery.
the two wires, the positive negative coming off the battery, when it
Uh-huh.
goes into the system, that's where the diode is, right there, right at the very beginning.
Right. So for you to
Then it's
feed the positive flyback back to the positive side of the coil where the positive of the battery hits the positive
right.
side,
So
you
now
have to
I
send
got
it there, right?
right. So right after that diode, all right, I got the spark gap switch right after it. So any of the discharge that's coming off that spark gap, it only has one direction to go, and that's right to the coil. I'm forcing it down the system, right? Because if you create the discharge and you got the flyback in the coil, well, the power's going to want to go in both directions. It's going to want to go this way, not in the direction of the load. But if you put a plug there or the diode to prevent it from going back to the battery, it only has one way to go, and that's down the circuit, right? I'm
And you're
forcing
channeling
that
it back to the
surge
plus
down.
terminal of the battery, which ends up going to the
No,
plus side of the coil that's being charged.
no. No, it's shut off. That circuit's shut off. It won't allow it to go to the
Right,
battery.
because the
That's the
gate's
whole
open at that time. So
because
you're keeping the
right
coil
after the
charged.
battery,
You're keeping the coil
right at the
charged
that's right. It's keeping it saturated.
with the flyback.
Right,
You're not
exactly. It's
giving it,
getting
you're not letting the field collapse. Well, wait, you
that's
are.
right. It is collapsing to a point, but it's staying saturated because of the piezos are creating that harmonic inside the coil. That's where the inductive reactance is happening, right? That enhances the inductive reactance in it huge, huge. So I'm
The field
creating kind of
collapses,
like,
it flies back, then it feeds the coil back again
yep,
with the
and then goes
flyback.
down the line. And then it goes down the line. It gets
Then the
forced
gate
down the line.
closes, then the gate closes, and the battery says, well, the coil's already charged.
Yeah, exactly. The battery also says too, oh, we don't need any current.
Yeah, we just need to keep the potential a little higher or whatever, because the
You got
flyback's,
it. Yes, sir.
that's incredible. That's a good one, Mike. Did you write
And
this down?
yeah, I got a book that I'm
No, I
writing
mean
right
the
now.
circuit. You got it diagrammed and all
Well, that's the circuit that you have there. The only thing I'm missing is right where the positive is, where the battery is. Right, draw a little diode in there facing towards the spark gap switch. And that's where I put it, right there, right after the battery.
So
It'll be
it's basically
battery,
the same
battery.
concept as the Bedini system, just
Yeah,
using the
you have
flyback
to
channel.
you have to channel the current through the system. So you don't want the flyback hitting the battery because you're killing the dipole in the process because the battery wants to absorb that energy. Well, you don't want that. You want to keep that energy there. So when you create that block there and you keep that energy channeling down the system through the spark gap, in the coil, through the piezos, you want to keep that flow going in that direction. You don't want it to go
Where
backwards.
was your load in all this? The drains
Load after the piezo, right after the piezo. So
after
what I do
the.
is I hook it up to a 60-watt LED light, and I guess the amount of resistance on it creates almost like a electronic type spark gap. So it keeps that flow going. It lights up the light, but it's not killing the dipole. Then I do the one wire circuit off of one of those wires that goes to the light bulb. And I channel two wires coming off that. That goes to my transformer. And then from the transformer, I dump it into the full wave bridge. From the full wave bridge, it goes to the big capacitor, the 60 volt, 12,000 microfarad capacitor. I dump it in there, and then I can do whatever the hell I want with it.
You said that was a 60 volt, 12,000 microfarad.
Yeah, yeah,
That sounds like an $80 capacitor or something like that.
yeah. I got this one here actually for $14 from my surplus guy. Give me a good deal.
14.
Yeah, 14
I've
volts.
seen I have some
It's big. It's
capacitors
like
that are
this.
like
It's like this big.
10,000 microfarad and
Yeah,
4
this
volts.
one. Yeah, this one's 12,000, 60-volt DC.
60 volts.
Yeah,
It's a
60
high
volt.
voltage.
Here, hold on a sec.
You
I'll
got lucky
show
with
you.
that one. That's not a cheap capacitor. Right there.
Yeah, my surplus guy rocks.
What do you mean by surplus? Army surplus?
No, just electronic surplus.
You got
Just the
hooked
best
up
guy
there.
in town.
That's like a $200. 60 volts.
Yeah, 60 volt
12,000.
DC, 12,000 microfarad. Yeah, 60 volt DC
As the
maximum.
higher the voltage
Uh,
goes, at that type of microfarads, it gets
it's a good
expensive.
size. It's a big. Well, you can see it compared to my hand. It's like a big chunky capacitor. So I dump it into this. I always put a bridge rectifier before it goes into this, and then from there you can hook it up to a dumping circuit and dump it into whatever you want to do with it. So
I
yeah,
thought you were
these are
dumping
great.
the flyback back into the drive core.
No, no, it goes out of the system. So from there I could charge a stack of batteries or do whatever I want with it.
I
All the
thought
flybacks
you were
already happened in the system. So the idea is to create that reaction, let it flow freely. So that's why I got that light hooked up. It acts like kind of like a electronic type of spark gap or release. So that flow of energy is allowed to leave the system. But I tap off one wire, right? I tap off one wire and I hook it up to the Tesla one wire system. And then I dump it into this guy here. And I can do whatever I want with it after that. Putting it through bridge rectifiers also helps change the symmetry of the circuit as well. So after I put it through this guy, I put it through one more bridge rectifier. And I could actually loop that power back to the battery if I wish. But the problem now that I found out what I did this week with Bedini is that's actually not a good thing to do. You should dump it into a battery that uses negative energy, right? So,
so
and it's a
the
very, very, very easy circuit, very simple circuit, but it does work. Because the batteries, like I just checked the voltage on my two
so you're
batteries, it's still
you're using the capacitor to keep the car the coil uh,
no,
ramped up.
it's too far down the circuit. The that's not even part of that circuit anymore. This branches off on the Tesla one wire system.
Oh, it's a different
This
circuit.
is
Okay.
it's a separate circuit feeding off of the main circuit. So that's why
So that's
it
your
doesn't
load.
kill the dipole.
That's your load section.
Yeah, that's the load section, and it doesn't kill the dipole. The dipole's running free, and it's not pulling the motor down. There's no lens effect. None of that's going on. So yeah, very effective. I've been doing it for a long time. But yeah, stuff like this I can get at my surplus. He's got everything. Like he's got some old gear in there, like back to the 40s. Like I got spark gaps that are the issue date was 1945. They were used on battleships for the radar system. They're the real vacuum tube spark gaps. They're beautiful. I got about 10 of them.
And you're going to use that
Very
just for
nice.
your frequency generator? Or?
Yeah, I've used it for the Don Smith system. I did some ball lightning experiments. Um, I was dealing in the kilovolt range, so I started getting a little freaked out about the emissions coming off it. I didn't know if I was creating X-rays or stuff like that, like stuff that could be potentially dangerous. So I kind of halted, work with that until, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I don't want to, do something that's going to be harmful to my body. You know what I mean? Because when you get it into the kilovolt range and you're using spark gaps, you don't know what's coming off that, the emissions coming off. And even some of the old tubes in those old tube TVs, from the 60s and 70s, some of that stuff was pretty toxic. Like there was some material that used to accumulate in one of the power tubes that was hooked up to the magnetron or the power system for the tube itself, and apparently it was radioactive. Actually, was getting a lot of the technicians sick that would work on these things. So
Lead, maybe.
no, it was the emission coming off the actual cathode or the anode inside the old two TVs. I remember we had a big one, an old Viking TV. They had giant tubes in this thing. It was really old. It's probably, we're going back late 70s
Radio
when we had
frequency
this TV.
emissions?
It could be radio, it could be beta, all, who knows? But I know some of those tubes did give off some radiation. Yeah, there was some, because, you go up to those old tube TVs, man, they create a huge amount of static electricity on, like just crazy. Like we had an old Viking. It was probably, I think it was a 20 or 25-inch tube, the old ones. It wasn't even color. It was black and white.
When you get into the high
It-
frequency, high amplitude, that's when it starts to happen.
yeah.
Or, not even high amplitude, but high frequency, close range.
Mm.
You know, if you're
Oh
really
yeah,
close
that's
to
what.
a coil, you're like a couple feet away from a coil that's oscillating at low amps but high
Oh, I
frequency.
remember. I remember as a kid, I would put my hand up on the screen and just feel the static coming off my hands. You could put it like a balloon up to the TV and it would stick to the TV too. So yeah, it's pretty wild what they had back then. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember this stuff. So you know, tube TV, CRT screens.
It's the
It's
high amplitude, high frequency that does the harm.
yeah. Joe's asking. I worked on the Gerard Morin device. Yeah, I did work on it. I got some really really good results with it. I actually was watching one of his videos today. Believe it or not, one of his old videos explaining his generator. I do have it in my storage locker right now. So I might dabble with that again. I want to try hooking that Gerard Morin device. I'm going to hook that up to uh, a microwave oven transformer. Let me see if I can get any power out of that. Curious to see if that would work.
Gerard was using a pump, no water pump,
Yep,
or
washing machine pump. Yeah,
do you know what's in there? Is that just a spinning magnet? Is there
yep.
a stator?
Nope, it's just a spinning magnet in between two with a core, metal core, and two coils on either end, and you just spin it. And
So there is a
it
stator.
creates a, yeah, it creates a great 60 hertz frequency. I was able to run motors. I was able to run lights.
So it's basically an
Uh,
alternator.
yeah, pretty much. I would say yeah. It created about from what I had. It's about 100
So he's
and
spinning an
yeah, it's about
alternator with a
120
motor.
watts. Yeah, just a regular
He,
DC motor. Hook it up.
he
Yep,
converts the frequency by spinning a higher
yep.
RPM.
Now, here's the funny part. Okay, all that power coming off that. Okay, I could grab both terminals with my hands and not get electrocuted.
Yeah, because it's a low. It's got a high impedance, high resistance coil, I guess,
But
right?
the second you hook it up to a coil or a transformer, oh yeah, you got power there, and that'll kill you. But the power coming off that actual uh, pump motor, I can take it and I can grab the terminals coming off that where the power's coming off. I can hold them with my hands and I don't get electrocuted. That's the crazy part. Now the other thing too is I can take that
Hmm.
power. I can take that power with no rectifier, dump it into a DC battery, or run an AC appliance. Figure that one out.
That is kind of weird.
Yep.
And then you also said you were able to hook that pump up to another transformer, and it would shock you.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't do that because I know it would kill me.
So wait, you're saying it stepped down. So
Well, it changed the
that little
voltage.
motor was putting out high frequency, low amps, but high voltage.
He claims it's an RF.
So it was
It's
high
actually a
voltage, low amp, low current, high voltage, high frequency
well, it's not.
motor.
Yeah, but the second you put it into into a high voltage coil, boom,
And
you
then you
got
step
like
that, and then you put that high frequency,
step it up. You
low
step it up.
amps, high frequency, low amps,
Well, it's a higher voltage,
high
higher
voltage signal into a transformer, step it
right,
down
right.
to a lower
Step it
voltage,
down,
lower
higher
frequency,
amps,
and
higher
all of a
amps.
sudden, by stepping down your voltage, and you're automatically increasing your amps. That's Ohm's law. So it
Exactly.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
doesn't
And I
make
could
sense
run.
is that this
So
stator has a thin winding. It's just
yeah, yeah. So like with this, with that Gerard Morin device, I could run small AC appliances, like small stationary fans. I could run with it.
and Gerard did
Uh,
say that the pump didn't get hot. He kept
that's
saying
right.
it.
It's cool. Never
And
got hot.
it's a thin winding on there. You'd think it'd get
That's
hot
right.
when you're drawing a load on the other end
Nope. That's why
because
he's claiming
it's a thin winding. So it's like,
that's why he's
you know,
claiming it's an RF. It's RF because
where's the power
the
coming
previous
from? If it's not coming through that thin
well,
winding,
that's exactly it. And that's why he's saying if
it's happening in the
normally,
conversion somewhere
right?
from
See
high
what he's
frequency to
saying.
low frequency.
See what he's saying. What makes his pump unique is the fact that he could run it and grab the terminals and not get killed. So what type of power is coming out of it? That it's not allowing, it's not hurting him. But the second he puts it through an inductor or a coil or a transformer, then it becomes deadly.
Yeah, because he
But
steps down the voltage and that increases your amps.
yeah,
And you only
and
need a
the other
certain
thing,
amount of volts to get through a human body. It doesn't need to be thousands of volts. It only needs to be 60 or
yeah,
70 volts.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
when
the
you
thing
have
is,
thousands of volts, but you got no amps behind it, or next to none,
but like I
it may
said
get
earlier,
through you, but the amps is not. You have to lose the volts to
yeah,
gain amps. Hmm.
yeah.
It's making
What
sense.
he's saying, what makes his really unique is the fact that you don't need a rectifier. It knows when it needs DC and it knows when it needs AC. It doesn't need any conversion there. It does it on its own. It
Most
goes
DC
out,
devices already have a diode on them, so
but no. But what he's saying is he pumps it into a light right from the pump. It lights up an AC power source. Hooks it up to a DC power source. It lights it right up. So
well,
why is it able to?
the pump is putting out AC, so
But it's he's pumping it into a DC load, and it works.
a DC load would be something like what, a
And
battery?
he because he said like he said no like a DC light bulb. He can put it into a DC light bulb and it works.
Well,
Put it
those
into
light
an
bulbs
AC
have
light.
diodes on them. LEDs are diodes.
No, he's putting it into an incandescent light bulb.
That's AC.
Yeah, that's an AC bulb, but he could put a DC current
Oh,
into a
DC.
DC light bulb,
An AC light
incandescent.
bulb.
No. DC light bulb, incandescent.
There's no such thing as DC incandescent. DC
Well,
light bulb is an
no,
LED. Oh
no,
wait,
not an
you're right.
LED.
There is a
It's
DC
DC.
incandescent. My
Yeah,
bad.
exactly. Yes, you can put it
That's what
into
a
a
car light bulb
DC light.
is.
Right, exactly. You can light up those halogen light bulbs with the motor, no problem. He actually got the big sodium
Oh, it's an
lanterns,
AC.
the
It's
high
an
power
AC
ones.
signal. I guess. Yeah, it is kind of
The other
weird.
one he was able to light up too. Not bright, but enough to see the electron flow. Those big, huge sodium lights that they use for hydroponics. He had one of those lights. He would light it up, and you'd actually be able
Yeah,
to
it
see
had a
the
different
glow.
color to it. I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. And that takes a lot of power to light those suckers up. But he was able to get it lit up a little bit,
Yeah,
just enough
because
so he could see that.
the high voltage, it was a high voltage.
Yeah, Yeah,
You can light
but I
everything.
think more or less he wanted to see the electron flow that was coming through that light. He
Hmm.
wanted to actually observe that. Anyways, Mike, I'm going to call it quits. We've done 2 hours. I'm going to go to the dentist tomorrow. And yeah, we'll be doing another live show again, 9 o'clock Eastern next Friday. Hopefully, everybody can join us again for the show. We had Gerald on earlier, which was great. Got some great content with him. And Mike here, my partner in crime. We are here every Friday night. And yeah, don't forget to check out Mike's uh, uh, YouTube channel and check out the stuff that he has, all the flyback circuits and everything. He's got videos posted. I've got over 400 videos on my site right now. And yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great week. And we'll see everybody next Friday.
See you there, Mike.
Take care. Take care.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
All right.